Melissa,
Yes,
I hear you have
I
questions.
do. I do.
What kind of questions today?
Well, let me start by saying almost happy official birthday. The sun is going to be where the sun was on the day you were born.
Yay, me! It's my
And
birthday.
I know,
I celebrate all month long. July is my birthday.
in 2 days.
A little more. Two
Oh,
days solar return, 3 days birthday. 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven.
okay. I'm time blind, so I have no day. I don't know what day it is. So anyway, I knew it was like within
Oh, yeah.
a few.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. Um, And I thought, in our culture, because it is the easiest thing, if we have the privilege of knowing on what date we were born, because I do know some people don't.
Right.
But if we do know, that's what we celebrate. It's such a big deal. We get excited. There's a cake, there's a this, there's a that, and that is fantastic. That's like when you shot out into the place, squeezed right on out there or whatever. We're cut out. Um, in this realm, in this lifetime. But I also know, hang on, let me click something. I also know, having worked with you quite a bit, that there's so much else. There's so many other things that, like a restart or a shift, that happen on your birth date.
Yeah.
So, might we talk about those things? Because I do feel like I understand some of those things, but I am like, I have no idea what that is with some
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. So, what you're talking about astrologically would fall in the category of timing techniques.
Okay.
And let's just say there's a bunch of them.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch more now than there were 30 years ago because of Project Hindsight, which we've talked about before,
Yeah.
that unearthed and translated fresh some of the earliest written word about astrology and practices that were
The
ancient.
original.
The
The original.
OG stuff.
Mhm.
That's right. That's right. That's where we recovered techniques that for whatever reason stopped getting used. And astrology just became, really, it became sun sign astrology. And the reason it became sun sign astrology was
Mhm.
because they needed to sell newspapers. And so this is only 100 years ago that sun sign astrology became more popular than rising sign astrology. Or if we didn't have your rising 100 years ago, it would be the moon, not the sun. But the sun became the only way that a lot of people think about their charts when we were in a situation where they needed to sell papers, and they needed to sell papers with something that would get people back to the paper every day. And that meant it's got to have something about you. And so there's a horoscope every day. And sometimes you read your horoscope and go, that's not me. And you're right, because it's
But you've seen
describing.
an ad, then you're like, oh, but I need some shoes,
Mm.
because it's like peppered in the middle of a
But
shoe
if we
ad.
think about the horoscope is, it's fine. I don't want to call it lazy astrology. It is sun sign astrology. It is only representing something that you share with a twelfth of the people on the planet, if we assume that everybody is born in equal amounts to each sign, which I know is not true. But we have 12 signs. So you got a 1 in 12 chance of sharing a sign around the wheel, right? So here we are with timing techniques being revived that include things like annual profections and zodiacal releasing, Ferdaria, decimals. There are so many. Oh, progressions, secondary progressions. That was something my mom did a lot. Mom did progressions all the time, and she would do a natal chart reading for someone for like 3 hours. They would come to our house, and she would put an audio cassette recorder on and start the recording, and then it would flip over. And when it flipped over, it was time to look at the year ahead. And then each year, the client would come back, and for an hour or an hour and a half, usually, because like me, she goes over, she would then do their progressed reading.
Uh-huh.
And that was, so she was using progressions. And I remember learning that and that whole shebang. But here's what is important. we get overwhelmed if we try to keep up with all of it.
Mm.
And I actually have a visual. Let me show this because this
Because it's
is,
brilliant.
can you see my screen?
Yeah, and it's brilliant.
Okay, so this is not me. This is somebody else's, but I was designing these for my Fleekly Planner, aka the Planet Planner, that we were working on and selling and making available a custom.
AKA the pip.
The PIP, the PIP, that's right. So this was one of the key features of the PIP. Which was this one line across the top, numerology life path. Whatever your numerology is, life path number, that is your number, your number, your number. The day of the week that you were born on, planetary days of the week, that doesn't change. Your chart ruler doesn't change. It's the ruler of your rising sign. And then we get into your life car, which is life car navigator. That's your sun. Your life car backseat driver, that's your moon. And then your life car driver, that is your rising sign. And then you have a natal lunar phase. You're born when the moon is in what kind of phase. So all of these, if you can imagine, stretch on and on and on and on out to infinity in both directions. Although technically not infinity. It's when you were born and when you die. Okay, fine. But within that, we have these little slices of color that happen all the time. And if I had wanted to fill in all of this white space here and all of this white space here, I could, because all I'm doing is showing a sliver of time that fits in this, at the time I was making this, 2024, 2025 period.
Right.
And so what we've got is a Fedaria, which has a decade-long ruler, and then a progressed lunar phase. And this person had a lunar phase changing from last quarter to balsamic, which meant going from pink, which is a little more social, a little more air signing things out, very Mercury in its vibe, changing over at this point just before 2025 into a balsamic phase. And what we know about balsamic is right before that new moon, it's dark, it's quiet, it's magical, which is why this is purple, but it is really lonely too. And if you start to wonder, where did my mojo go? Where did my oomph go? Sometimes it's because you're in a balsamic phase. And when I first clicked with that, I went through and marked all my balsamic phases and all my husband's balsamic phases, because I don't want to try and urge him to go out and do things with me if he's in a balsamic phase. I just let him stay in his cave.
Okay.
The progressed moon,
Right.
right, is also a feature. And then this person during the PIP, the Planet Planner, the Fleekly Planner, had a Fedaria chapter change from Mercury to the moon. So we can see with this person, they shifted from a more pink to a more blue purple, and then a pink to a blue, and then an orange and pink because they were in a 1 year, and then a 2 year, which is totally blue. Now, numerological years always change on January 1st. They run year to year man time, because we change the number of the year itself. So that's what affects that numerologically. But on this person's birthday, they went from a profection year ruled by Jupiter to a profection year ruled by Mars. Now, I am right now, at this moment, in the final 2.5 days of my Mars ruled profection year that I have been working toward for about 6 years, specifically doing planetary remediation and loads of chart harmony so that my Mars ruled year would be gentler on me than it was last time, which was 12 years ago. And I'm almost afraid to say I made it because we still have a couple days yet, but
you made it.
I think we made it. So, but I will go on my birthday or on my solar return, which is the day before my birthday, I will go from a Mars ruled year to a Venus ruled year. And since Venus is my chart ruler already, it's like, oh, I know what that feels like. That vibe just feels like being at home. And then there's a solar return chart, which only marks the sun coming back to the exact degree it was when you were born. And that then changes who's your chart ruler in your solar return. And for this person, it went from Venus to Saturn. And remember, their original all life chart ruler is Mercury. So that doesn't change. We just add in these colors. And so if they find it really hard to access something, they only have to look ahead in their timeline to see that they're
Right.
going to get solar return, they're going to get numerology, they're going to get perfection, they're going to get progression, they're going to get Fidaria. And then over here, they're going to get transits. Like here's the Uranus opposition. That is a pink and black pow. But there are also like Saturn square, Saturn return. Like these are all things that if we could look at just a slice of your life, are all part of the story of how you feel you can access various tools and parts of your personality, frankly.
Okay.
So, with all of that vomited out,
Yeah.
what what do you want to explore? Because I just so you know, this is not even close
I know.
to a smidgen of the number of timing techniques that we could use in astrology.
Right.
Okay.
And I know, I would say a fair amount, a good deal about astrology, if there's no amount of like, this is all there is to know, but just pretend like it was this. I at least know this much maybe. And so when I look at that, and even having worked through this with you, this is a good example of why I think people can A, get overwhelmed, and B, need some structure,
Yeah.
need some help, because it's not enough to know just your birth date.
Right.
And even if you don't know the time you were born, I mean, there are ways to look at this that can really
Absolutely.
help you. And I don't think people fully understand that. It feels like, even knowing what I know, like there was a fire hose. The further down we went, I'm like, okay, 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 okay. And and so I'm going to clarify a few things.
Sure.
First off, I can't see you.
What?
I don't know
Well,
why.
I don't like that. Here,
Oh,
I'm
thank
right
you.
here. I
Thank
think
you.
you have a view button that you could maybe toggle.
I did.
All right.
Sorry.
I'm here. I didn't leave.
I'm
Okay.
like, where are you? So, well, now people might need to see that. But
That's okay.
so
We
the
can
way
go back
I
to it.
see
We
it
had
is,
it up a long time. It's fine.
like, if we're looking at everything like a movie, the way I see it is like all of the ones that are all the way across, like they don't change. All those, that would be like a snapshot. Those are static.
That's
Those
right.
don't change. And that would be like maybe um a headshot or like a movie promo or something like that. That's static. But then all of these other ones change, and that can be more like if this is the character, then these other parts maybe ish, or like the plot and how things change and how you grow, and like those are the more moving things about, like, based on what was there when you were born, not even transits, but things that shift
That's right.
no matter what the transits are. Is that
That's
right?
right. That's right. The
Okay.
the ones that run all the way across your whole life, it's almost like see that as your you-ness. You always have
Okay.
access to all of this because that's how you were born. And then
Okay.
throughout your life, you are going to enter into and leave certain timing techniques versions of different colors, which we were talking about how like I have no fire in my chart, and then I have to clarify because that is actually a lie.
Right.
My chart ruler is in Leo, which is fire. And my chart ruler is Venus. And Venus is not only in Leo, she's at 29 degrees Leo, which means she's on top of fixed star Regulus. And at the time I was born, on top of Black Moon Lilith. I mean, tight conjunction of these babies. And because of that, I have a personality that feels like it has more fire than I feel like I have because my general settings are all this water and all this air. There's just no fire at all. And
Mhm.
yet I get a lot done. I'm very action oriented.
Yeah.
I'm motivated. I'm optimistic in a way that fire signs generally are. And it's just because that's where my chart ruler is. So even if that's all you know, that's plenty.
Right, right.
That's helps you understand yourself in ways that you may not get yourself if you're just reading a horoscope off your sun sign.
Right. But and that does matter, because you might read yours and go, "Oh," like you said, like some days, yeah, that really works. Okay.
Because it is a part of the reality. But you could
100%.
read the horoscope for your moon, the horoscope for your sun, and the horoscope for your rising. And then those three together will give you an idea of the blend of energies.
It's really cool to do that.
Yeah.
Do we need to stop, or may I ask another question?
Let's ask another question. It's my
Okay.
birthday.
Yay. So I don't know if you want to use the person whose chart you pulled up or yours, for instance. Like if you're looking at, okay, so there's your sun, and then you know about your life car. What are the things that people that would be most helpful for people to potentially, excuse me, to potentially study, look at, learn about next? Would it be progressed moon or progressed something or a perfection year?
If I could suggest the way people dig in on their charts as they're learning, I would actually say learn perfections before progressions, simply
Okay.
because progressions I find is something that's for some reason hard for people to wrap their brain around,
Mhm.
because it is a theoretical chart that you're creating when you do a progression. But when you're doing annual perfections, you are simply saying on your birthday, you now move to another whole sign house around your chart wheel, and you do this all lifelong. And
Oh,
so you have rulers in order, and you can predict once you're a certain age what those years tend to feel like, because you've been through them enough to go, oh my God, I always am in. And in my situation with Mars before this time was in the hospital every time. And I'm like, woo,
wow.
because Mars loves to cut a bitch and Mars loves accidents. And if I'm not doing enough to bring Mars out in healthy ways, Mars is going to come out on Mars ruled years.
So okay, so when you were born,
Yeah,
your your sun is in Cancer.
it is.
When you turned 1, your the perfection year was based in Leo. So,
No,
oh,
no.
I
Okay.
don't get it
No,
then.
no,
What?
no, 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 no. Here. Let's go back to sharing. Hit the little view button so you can still see my face.
I can, okay.
Okay. All right. So let me go to me. There's Bonnie. Okay.
So glad I clarified.
Okay. So here's what we're actually, and let me take out the decans so that we're not layering on all the things that we want to do all at once. Because as much as I love the decans, let's keep it simple. Okay.
Okay.
So this is my natal chart,
Yeah.
and I'm born a Cancer sun, Libra moon, Libra rising. Okay. We start from the rising.
Okie dokie.
So your technique is correct. Your
Okay.
starting point was flawed.
Okay.
So what we do is the year I am 0, I
Mm-hmm.
am in a first house year.
Okay.
The ruler of my life for that year is Venus, because Venus rules Libra.
Mm-hmm.
And it means I will be doing first house matters, which are my body, my personality, who I am as I show up in the world. And if you think about the time from 0 to 1, that's pretty much I'm figuring out what it is to be in this skin suit. Okie doke.
Yeah, yeah.
And ruled by Venus. And to hear my family tell stories about it, I was carried, nobody knew the age I learned how to walk because I was carried around everywhere like a princess, because I was the baby. I was the oops baby, but I was royalty as far as my family was concerned, which is so sweet and so contradictory to how things were by the time I was 7. But that's another story. The day I turn 1,
Mm-hmm.
I move into a second house year. And for me, the second house is Scorpio, therefore ruled by Mars, because we do
Okay.
whole sign house system, traditional rulership. So that's why Mars. And
So
so
you
that,
get 2 Mars. So everybody gets winds up 2
two
Mars, 2
Mars, two Venus,
Venus,
two Mercury. Yep.
2
Two,
Saturn.
two Saturn,
Okay.
two Jupiter. Yeah, all of them
Okay.
except for the luminaries.
Got it. Okay.
Sun and moon, 1 and 1. Okay. So in my Mars ruled year, the year between not 0 and 1, but 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
I was in and out of hospitals and doctor's offices and having emergency procedures and trying to figure out what was wrong with me because I was constantly unwell. And specifically, one of the things I remember, in fact, I've had a regression that helped me and I don't know if this is true, and it feels sad to say, but it feels correct, that my first memory was of waking up because they didn't put enough anesthesia, which is typical for redhead people. They typically underdo it. I woke up during a procedure that was being done on my bladder. So something was up my urethra, and I became aware, and people rushed around me and put me back under. That's like a flash of a memory that I have.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. And I didn't do a trigger warning or anything. I should have. That's Scorpio, is of course your little peeper. That's your little TT place. Of course that's Scorpio.
Yeah.
And trauma and to the depths of something, right?
Yeah.
The next year, when I am turning from 2 to 3, we now put me in the third house. And since for me that's Sagittarius, that's ruled by Jupiter. So that's going to be a much larger expression. It's going to be more optimistic. It's going to be more adventurous. And for those first few years of your life, you may not be able to see it mapped 1-to-1, but this circle repeats your whole life long. Mm-hmm. And so by the time you are 12, you are back here. And the year that you are 12 is the first house again.
Okay.
And so the year you are 24, you're back at the first house again. The year you're 36, mm-hmm. and the year you are 48, mm-hmm. and the year you are 60, and the year you are 72, mm-hmm. and 84, which is also your Uranus return. Yeah. The year you are 96, mm-hmm. which is your third Saturn return. And if you want to keep going after that, the year you turn 108. And then 120.
Nope.
Wait, 108? Yeah, 120. Woo. Okay, so.
Okay, well, that's fascinating to me. So all this time, because I don't know why, because I just never clarified, I had a sense of it, but I didn't know what it was based on.
So this is what this app does. And you can get a report like this even in a free place like AstroSeek or astro.com. You just have to know what kind of thing you're asking for, but it's going to be the Hellenistic ascendant, meaning based on the rising, annual perfections. I don't need these monthlies. I basically just put a hand over that whole column over there, that whole last 4 columns, because I don't need to do a month to month to month, but you can actually take perfections all the way down to by the second. If you really wanted to get something like, what's the ruler of this moment right here? Because this is when I'm going to propose. You could do that if you wanted to.
So when you turn, whatever you turn, when you have your birthday on the 11th, you will be moving from a Mars year to a Venus year because it will move into Taurus.
It'll move into Taurus, and it does so through my 8th house. So what I'm finishing up right now is this Mars ruled Aries 7th house, which means lots of focus on my spouse and our partnership. And that has been 100% true of this time. And it is also very Aries, which is I'm on my own and dealing with some issues that have required that there be things I take care of all by myself. And that makes sense. And then Mars, of course, being the ruler, meaning time to take action, time to kick butt. Let's get that motivation going. However, we always have to consider, how is that ruler in your natal chart?
Right.
And Mars is a dick in the dirt in my chart. He's not happy. I got Mars. First of all, Mars likes to be below the line. And so as soon as we put Mars up at the top of the chart, he's pissed. You put him in Cancer, he's super pissed. And
you got the double whammy.
It's such a whammy double. And so it means that's why I knew I've got to do something about this Mars situation so that we have a better time of it. And when you know that about your chart, you are then able to get out ahead of it so that hopefully it all flows a little easier. Moving into an 8th house perfection year, some people go, oh God, I'm really scared, because that's when people die. That's when you get inheritances, because people die. It could be, big tax bill, could be big tax credit, could be because it's other people's money, but it's also death and sex and the occult and transformation. And I'm like, I'm not worried about an eighth house year ever, because for me, the eighth house is money for entrepreneurship. It is simply money coming to you in ways that you don't count on regularly, like a
Uh-huh.
salary and a paycheck. That's second house.
Got
But
it.
eighth house, that is, I don't know where the next buck is going to come from. And it comes sometimes in windfalls. And then I got to figure out how to budget and make it work. Well, I got Saturn there. Saturn knows how to budget. I'm all right. But again, we look at the condition of the ruler. So whereas Mars was in bad shape, we now move over to my Venus. My Venus is in great shape. And this is
Yeah, yeah.
before we even put on cute little things like Black Moon Lilith
Hmm.
and Regulus, which would go right between these. But I'm not going to go find that one and put it on because it's deep in the bowels of the
I love
app.
them both. I
Don't
love
you?
Black Moon Lilith. I am studying her, and so yay. And of course, that makes sense for you.
And because Venus is already my chart ruler,
Yeah.
we are good. Like I've got so much practice doing
Mhm.
Venus well, and I'm looking forward to that sweetness. Mm.
So, very quick summary.
Yes,
Perfection has to do with when you're born, looking at your ascendant, that house, and more importantly, equally importantly, more importantly, the ruler of that house.
correct.
Whether it is the sun, the moon, Venus, Venus, Mars, Mars.
Mercury, Mercury, don't forget.
Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Uh-huh. So
Jupiter,
every 12
Saturn.
years, you get the opportunity. Is it more like, do you see it more like learning sun lessons and learning Mars lessons and like moving around like that? Do you see it like in that year as working with that, balancing, learning the lessons of that ruler?
Let's take the metaphor to the life car.
Okay.
Since this is a technique of the ascendant, the rising, and the
Okay.
rising is the driver of the life car, the ruling planet, says a lot about how that life car goes, right? You have your life car, it is still your life car. So now we're back to those long lines that go all the way across all time. And for this one year that goes from your birthday to your birthday, we're going to pop on a different coat of paint and we're going to have a different playlist and we're going to use a
Oh,
different kind of fuel and maybe we're going to take a different kind of route because of what this perfected ruler likes. What's the terrain that it likes? What's
okay.
the speed that it likes? It can't override to the extent that your life car ceases to be your life car.
Right.
But especially if you've got a cranky ruler for the year and a life car that's stubborn or largely fixed or something like that, you end up with a push pull. And you're like, why am I having a war with myself every 12 years?
Okay. This is brilliant.
There you
And
go.
also, I can continue laughing at the dig in the dirt.
I mean, when I think of things that Mars and Cancer probably feels like, I mean, I can only imagine.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And I need to spend a little time with that. Thank
Maybe we'll, in time for your birthday, be able to come back around to this topic and you can teach
you.
me through your chart.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah, okay. That'll be good follow up for everybody who's watching
Uh-huh.
because you can practice and then we'll come back together in a month and do it again.
Okay, cool.
Month-ish.
That's right. A month and 11 days
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. You're
Yeah.
Leo. You're Leo. Late degree Leo. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It's my birthday. Bye.